Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and it is the last day of November. It is the 30th and it's cold. We have like this Arctic air mass that's come down, so we're in the 20s, I guess, if you are. Good morning, Alex. I don't know if it's really cold by you up in where you are in Michigan. It's pretty cold here. It's probably about 25. 23. And hello, Sam. Good morning / afternoon. Yeah, it's a very cold morning today. We've got winter's come a little bit early. And so we are, what would that be in the UK terms? We're probably at about like maybe -3 right now, -3 to -5, I would say. Actually, it could be a little bit more than that. That's about it. Hi, I'm putting this weekend aside to plot my story, finally. Yay, that's awesome. Good morning, Suda. And yeah, it's funny. I've been trying to do the house clean out, and it's been good morning. You think it's 29 there? Okay, yeah, we're probably not too far afield from that, but the heat. I noticed the heat is coming on much more regularly. I think I'm gonna have to put out the draft excluders. It was so cold, but now it's close to 60 today. Well, that's the thing. That's one is the thing I love about another thing I love about Britain is just that, I don't know, it tends to stay, I mean, winters can get cold, but they never stay like really cold. It's not like here where you're going to get to like -4 Fahrenheit. It doesn't tend to happen. I mean, I don't know. I think you're a little farther north, so maybe, I don't know. But it just seems like everything is, nothing is it can get really cold. I think the wind is really the main thing. I think when you're in Britain, like I always felt like the winds were pretty ferocious when these storms would come up. So and I had ordered finally. I'm almost out of pumpkin spice, so I went and ordered mint coffee. Now I'm not real happy with Starbucks right now, so I normally would order their peppermint mocha, but instead I ordered Donut Shop's peppermint bark coffee, and that's what I'm having today. And it's actually quite good. I had not tried it before, and I ordered 20 and they sent me 60, so yay Mercury retrograde? I don't know. Anyway, I ended up with more, so, unless I go back and find that somehow I accidentally hit 60 instead of 20, but in any case, it's okay. I like this kind of coffee. That is one of my guilty pleasures. I know people who are like, no, I don't want any of that crap in my coffee. Alex says, good to know. I see that brand on Amazon and have been curious. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not, the flavor is, my whole thing is when I buy something that says mint coffee and then it has like barely anything that tastes like mint in it, then I'm like, really? Why? But this seems to taste a lot like it. So, and I'm using the K-Cups because this is what I've got from my Keurig. There's another brand that I use. I don't know. It's got like I think it's like kind of black and gold packaging, and I can't remember the name of the brand, but that's the one I tend to use for my coffee maker downstairs. So it's yeah, that is one of my kind of, I don't know if you want to call it a guilty pleasure, but I like flavored coffee. I know some people absolutely hate it and they think it's an abomination, but I like flavored coffee. Yeah, so it's been a busy weekend. Tomorrow we're doing the event in Chester, New Jersey. I'm doing that with Melissa, and I think she put her last plug out for that tomorrow. It is quite full. I think we've got at least 10 or 11 bookings, and I don't know how many more people might sign up, over the weekend. And I also let run people. I've got a Black Friday sale on readings. So Suda says, "Yay, you'll be there." That'll be So yay, we'll have. There's going to be quite a few people there. Some people that I know, some people are more clients of Melissa's, so I don't know them, but I'll get to know them after tomorrow. So, yay. Yeah, and we're kind of lucky it didn't snow here this weekend, because that was the thing that I'm always get a little worried about that. You make a big event and then it's just like, oh, by the way, it's going to be an ice storm. So thankfully that's not happening. I do have to get planned for the tarot class and so forth. I'm thinking maybe towards the end of December, like once all the holiday stuff calms down. I don't know how many people, I could do it as a weekend thing, but I don't know if people have time off during the week. I can always try to do it then as well. But yeah, it's been busy. I had a client yesterday, And then I had to do all my cooking for the week, and I've been trying to catch up with my nephews because I haven't talked to them in a while. In fact, my other nephew, he's probably up already actually in California, because I guess he's a police officer and he has to get up early to go to the gym. So he said, he says, like I can chat about 9 o'clock your time, which is, I guess, about 6 a.m. where they are. But they have their 2 daughters. And I talked to my other nephew last night, and my one grandniece Addie is like terrified of everybody. Like she doesn't, like if she doesn't know, she's actually quite outgoing, but if she doesn't know you, she wants nothing to do with you. Like if you're not a regular part of her life. But Charlie, who's the one who, at least astrologically, is quite similar. Her chart it's not, I wouldn't say it's exactly the same as mine, but there are some similarities. Like we have similarities in our human design types. She's born at 0 degrees 23 of Taurus, I think, or 22. I was born at 0 degrees 34. I thought I was born at 23, but I was like, nope, it's 34. So we're almost like right. She's almost got my birthday. She's April 19. I'm April 20. So, but we're very early Taurus, both of us. And he said, he says, and my nephew is Taurus. He's like, he says, Charlie was sitting on my lap the whole time, and she just like kept like sucking on my finger, because I guess she's got 2 teeth that have finally come in. She's a little over 7 months old. She's got 2 teeth that came in, so he says, she was just sucking on my finger the entire time. I was like, okay, well, she's that, I guess that's a good thing, So, but anyway, but my one little one, Addie is very, very Aries. She's very much, it's who I want when I want, and if not, then talk to the hand. What a cutie. I know. They're so cute. And Charlie just looks like, when she smiles, I think she's the one I said when she was born, she looked kind of like an alien to me. When she smiles, she's like really, really cute. And she will, she's got this, but apparently she's the one, like her sister's just kind of like, if I don't know you, go over here. And the little one, she's just like, hey, I love everybody, hug me, so she's still in that cuddly stage. So that's interesting. But there's, so in any case, I'm going to talk to my one nephew this morning. I haven't talked to him in ages. And then I talked to his brother last night. So, trying to catch up with people. And Monday, I'm trying to make a decision about the Monday Cattonia live stream, because I want to do it. I have a topic. I have a really interesting topic, because of all the things that come into my head in the morning. This is why I do these live streams, actually, because stuff comes into my head and I'm like, it always comes into my head like right first thing. So, this is the time to really talk about it. And the topic, which I'm not going to really get into here because I feel like it's more meant for the other channel, is more about how we moved from how when we stopped treating art, like we started treating art more like a luxury than a necessity. That's when I think we started disconnecting from the world, because when words became the primary thing. And I think about words like, early writing and early singing and so forth, like the bardic traditions, for example. Words were used to make poetry. They were used to make song. Okay, so it's kind of like music, art, like all those things were the things that that really were the communicating and the connecting factor. And now that we are all very analytical and word-driven, that we've kind of that has really separated us. But we don't, and we treat the arts and things like there's something that can be done by a machine, or we treat it like something that isn't essential to who we are. It's more like, art's not for me, I don't do art, right? But we all do, but attempting to try to do art in some way, or to work through symbol in that way, I think is important for reconnecting to that space that we have lost. And of course, you have art critics and things who tell you the right way to look at art and the right way to look at literature, because now it's got to be put caged in this confines of criticism, or official critiques by the knowledgeable people, right? Now, I don't think it's bad to have a background on something and to understand the context in which it comes, but I don't know. Anyway, that's probably going to be a topic for Cattonia. The topic that came up for me today was interesting because it seems to be around timing and divine timing. And specifically, when I'm kind of like, well, what do you mean timing? Because I know timing is a topic we have addressed on this live stream before. And I was like, okay, well, what's different about timing now than from then? And basically what Azrael had kind of said this morning was, he said, I keep getting like that Uranian influence, like there's other surprises in store. How did he put it? He said, none remain in death. That's what he had said. None remain in death. And it's, and what, what is it? Pa'iox telok. Yeah, no. We don't know. I think it's Og Pa'ox telok. Yeah, none remain in death. And so what he means by that is that when something is ending, like nothing is going to remain. Right now, I feel like we are still collectively dealing with the remnants of the age that we're leaving behind. We still, or there's a pushback. You know what I mean? There's a pushback against change, against there being a new way. But he is saying, this is a matter of timing. And so the implication really was that we need to see what's going to come out of this. We need to see what's there's in other words we're not quite done yet. The work of and I think that's kind of obvious. I mean, we've kind of gotten into a space where we felt like we were really pushing into something new, and now it feels like we're being dragged 7 steps back to the old. But that is not the end result. And so he had said, he says there were more surprises, and and he said that the work that he does, because he's very much actively involved in work of transformation. He says, my work's not done, but there's going to be a triumph of that work, because it's going to it will actually we'll see how things are going to be different. And so what does that have to do with timing? What I kind of think it has to do with timing is that we are in a space right now where we're seeing where we are, and we're trying to make plans for the future. We're trying to say, okay, and obviously with changes that we're going to have, or that at least it seems like we're going to have in government, then it's everyone, like for example, you have businesses saying, all imports are going to go up 60%. I better rush and buy things now. Businesses that might be thinking about whether or not they're going to be able to afford to go forward in the future. That there's these implications of different things. What are the new economics? How is that going to affect people? I've pulled the tower in the reading in the last 3 days. Yes, and that's just it. The Iranian influence. There's still more to come. The false structure has not totally been pulled down, and there's going to be another lightning strike, basically. Speaking of Uranus. Well, exactly, yes. And actually, I got the tower this morning as well. It's like, there's this sense that, we haven't seen everything yet, but wait, there's more. There's definitely more that's coming. Although he wasn't, like I said, other than saying that none shall remain, he did not get any more specific than that. And I don't know whether this is going to mean whether that for some people that will be a literal exit from the world, or whether or not that's just, because it just feels like a lot of what right now appears like, okay, this is going to be more of the same or worse. It seems like no, there's another surprise in store, but everything has to be timed in a certain way. Or there's a certain timing where, and he always talks about windows. That's the other word I get is koma, which is window. He's like, you have to wait for the window, and when the window comes in, that's when it happens. So there's windows of opportunity of all types. So we're waiting for a particular window to open right now, and I mean honestly, it has been said right from earlier this year that window will be. That basically it's going to be all the way through the end of 2024, which we're not there yet. I mean, we've got 1 month left to 2024, and we still have most of January, I think. But yeah, there's some other significant changes coming this season. And it seems to me, when I said, is that more on a personal level? There could be this could affect people on a personal level, but I feel like it's also happening on a collective level. Also, there was a little bit of a discussion of timelines yesterday. I was talking about timelines with my client who was over yesterday, and I also was talking about because she had also, and also people around her had suggested, yeah, like they felt like Tuesday to Wednesday, like it felt like there was that shift. And I know I talked about it here. Because I asked Azrael, I said, well, are we going to be making any more jumps? And he said, yeah. He says a lot of the jumps have to do with decisions that we make. So when we make certain decisions, that decision can literally almost quantum leap us into another space. Which I think is why there's been a strong encouragement here of getting still, getting to focus on where you're at, and then seeing where you're going to go. Or making a decision from that space. There's been a lot of that knight energy, right? That Knight of Swords, Knight of Wands. Like, we're all running around saying, like, immediately just kind of the knee-jerk reaction to what's going on. And he's like, no, you wanna step back, because the decisions you make now, and I think this is also why he's saying, be happy, don't frown. In spite of the fact that maybe there's a lot of reasons at the moment for a lot of people not to be too happy. He's like, be happy, because the decisions you make out of that space, out of focusing on opportunity, are what can shift the bigger outcome. It's almost like the butterfly effect, as we talked about the other day. It's like the one little thing that happens here can have a massive effect over here. So there seems to be, the way that the energies are right now, it seems like that ability to, to be the change you want to be. It seems like it's a thing right now. Like, it seems like it's a potent thing, or it's a thing that that we can that is probably maybe more possible than usual. I think there's times I think that sometimes we mistake that for, well, if I think it, I can achieve it. And I don't know. I never sit quite comfortably with that, because you can sit and stare at something and focus on it for hours, and all you do is drain yourself of energy and never get anywhere. I don't necessarily think, I don't think it's a matter of control. I think it's a matter of, because there's a lot about flow here too. It's a lot about directing our thoughts in the right direction and letting it do its thing, rather than, okay, now my thoughts have to come in and micromanage the whole process, which is frequently what we do. Once we get started with thought, it just wants to keep going. Because that's the way we are. But remember what I was saying in the beginning is that thought seems to actually be the thing that can cut us off from the flow, because the mind comes in and starts dissecting and logically going, well, okay, if we're at step A, then this is clearly going to be step B, and that's going to be step C, and then we just keep going and going and going, and then until we get ourselves into anxiety, or we feel like, oh, I'm going to do this, but then in the end, this terrible thing's going to happen, so I guess I shouldn't do anything. We talk ourselves into that kind of stuff all the time. Or we get one little thing and we think the absolute worst is going to happen. You could have 10 good things going on. The one bad thing you'll see is like, oh, but there's that one thing, so this is all not worth anything. It's a very common mode of thinking. And I just feel like a lot of what's happening now too is it's almost like what appears to be very negative right now, what may appear to be a loss, may actually be something, in this case, that it is the reason you're losing it is because you're being provoked to do something different. Like the Grand Cross. Remember, we've had a couple of Grand Crosses, and the Grand Crosses are about provocation. They are about about trying to push us to move into the new. But I think this Uranian energy that he's talking about, because the South Node came up with that as well. So I feel like it's basically leftover past stuff. It's stuff that has not yet been resolved and needs to be resolved. In other words, it's all getting resolved. It's not going to be, it's not just like, oh, we're going to have this one event here, and then we'll have a temporary change, and then everything's going to go back to the way it was. No, there's something more fundamental that's going on here. So, So anyway, it's quite interesting. I feel like what I want to grab here in terms of my cards. I got a really nice deck the other day. It was gifted to me, called the Sea Witch Tarot, which is really quite beautiful. So another client who said, like, yeah, I bought these thinking I was going to learn to read, but then decided you know, has her own reasons for not wanting to. Hello, Melissa. Good morning. And yeah, it's so so I have this new deck, and I actually like it a lot. I wasn't sure because I remember she had shown me pictures of it, and I was just like, oh, okay, you know, looks like, you know, but I'm surprised at how much I resonate with it, you know. And instead of the High Priestess, they have the Sea Witch. And yes, good morning. And I was telling everybody right when we got on that we have our event tomorrow. So if anybody still wants to sign up and reserve a spot for readings, it's going to be a busy day for us. We're going to be probably doing a lot of back-to-back readings, which is good. I mean, that's kind of the whole point, is to bring people in and to, you know, do a little community building stuff. But yeah, so I got that deck yesterday, but I feel like right now I want to take a look, being we're talking about these influences, I feel like I want to look at the astrology cards at the moment. Melissa's saying yes. Yeah, that's gonna be super cool. Actually, Melissa, I was talking to my nephew last night, and I was telling him about what we were doing, and he's like, "Oh, that aura thing sounds really cool." You know, so he wanted me to send pictures, so I sent him pictures of the ones that I had done, including the one you had done for me in the past. And I had, so yeah. So anyway, we had. We were having a I was surprised it was something that interested him, actually, because my nephews tend to be fairly I don't know, what's the word? They tend to be very, I mean, they're not religious, really. They're not really spiritual. I mean, they're just kind of, you know, very, very practical. My nephew happens to be, is Taurus, like I am. And let's see, okay. All right, this is interesting. So yeah, so anyway, whenever they show an interest in stuff like that, I'm always like, really? You have an interest in something like that? Yes, we'll take we'll take pics tomorrow too. Yeah, that'll be cool. And that's what he said. He says, yeah, if you take another one, show me what it looks like. Because anyway, we were just talking about the differences. Like, I have one that I took in Salem in 2021, and I showed it to people who've taken my intuitive development class, but there was all this brown around the edges, and they were like, yeah, you're really shutting your energy down here. But that was when I was making a decision about leaving my job, and I was like in total freak out mode. So anyway, so we were just kind of talking about how that's interesting, that is. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so I asked about the change that Azrael was talking about. And what's our first card is Capricorn, right? What are we leaving, right? Capricorn. Capricorn is that Saturnian, it's not only Saturnian energy, but Capricorn is that energy of, focusing exclusively on work, it's focusing on, how do I want to put it? When we see Capricorn, it's like, it's that element of, working hard, pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, you have to work all the time, otherwise you're lazy. Like, I feel like there's those elements of Capricorn that we might be talking about here. I don't think it's necessarily, because obviously every era, as we've talked about before, leaves something behind that's good and that's useful. And that there's always something about it that is beneficial and bears fruit. But I think, because we have it in the environment of the 8th house. And what's the 8th house? This is endings and beginnings. Okay? So this is the end of something. For whatever, this is the end of kind of an era here. And this is interesting because it's saying what this is rooted in. Okay, the next two cards are interesting here to talk about this, because we have the 4th house card, which is roots. This is the family card, right? 4th house is, it's not only mother energy, but it's also about family, about ancestry, and things like that. And weirdly, when I think of the feminine, I think of something that's collective, right? But when I see this card in terms of endings, I feel like it's ending ancestral patterns. And ancestral patterns don't just have to apply within our families. I mean, they frequently do. But these also, I think, apply to the ancestry even of our country, or the way that we do things, or the way that the world operates. That there's something in the roots of what we're doing, some kind of tradition that has been passed on that is no longer appropriate to where we're going. And what's interesting is the advice card is the 1st house card. And that's why I say that's interesting, because if you're moving into a space of the feminine, it should be focused more more familial, more, as I would say in my book, oikos focused, which is like the household, rather than individually focused. But this is saying focusing on the individual. And I think the reason it says that is because it's kind of what we had said about we're kind of moving into a space where, okay, some of the problems that you can have with the collective, and we're talking about on a global scale, what are some problems with, I mean, collectivism can mean we're all a community and we share and we help each other. Community can also be, we have a totalitarian regime and we all have to be the same, right? Collectivism is on a spectrum as well. That's why some people have this fear of socialism, although socialism, that's not really what socialism is defined at. National socialism is not socialism. Nationalism is not that. Nationalism is that whole, the concern that we have about the other, the concern that we have about boundaries. You're not part of my group. It's like we're all in middle school again, right? And it's like time to move past being in middle school and to kind of grow up to some degree, right? And say, okay, we need to think about what we individually have that makes us shine. That's first house energy. And it's about redefining identity and what we identify with, because remember, we are having a lot of these planets like Saturn and Neptune that are going to be moving into Aries. So first house makes a lot of sense. We're moving into this first house space, so we need to get rid of traditional attitudes, behaviors, and thoughts that are from the past. And really recognizing the individuality of people, because that's kind of the thing. In recognizing individuality, the paradox is that is something that supports the collective. If we think about the issues that people have around people, say, who are, LGBTQ, etc., those communities, the way in which they're demonized and vilified, the way in which immigrants can be demonized and vilified, right? There's a sense here that we respect the individual. We don't just see the individual as a number in a particular group, or you don't see the individual as just, are you part of my family or aren't you? Like, that might be the fourth house thing too. Are you one of us or not? And that's the problem. I mean, what does it define in a world community? I remember Joseph Campbell said this a long time ago. He said, in a world community, it can't be focused on the tribe, which is kind of where we've gotten back to. You can't just focus on the tribe. You have to focus on, in a world without mythologies, everybody kind of has to blaze their own trail. Everybody has to find their own way. And when you find that treasure, then that is the treasure you share with the community. And the community has to focus on how do we get people to come to their own treasure and to share it, so to speak. So it's so again, it's not that we're banning individualism here. It's a matter of how are we managing to develop our individual talents, and how does that benefit the collective, And our outcome here is Chiron. Okay, so Chiron has to do, obviously, with healing and healing wounds. So there's a healing that is still taking place here. And it also occurs to me, like, if we think about the national chart for the USA, we are having our Chiron return in this country. That is definitely part of things. Like, if we're just talking about big pictures, like, right, not just what's going on in our lives. So there needs to be a recognition of individuals and the rights of individuals, and not just saying, well, all people in this group are X or do Y or this or that. That way of that way of thinking isn't exclusive to the United States by any means. It's in a lot of places. It's actually, I feel like it's an outgrowth of colonialism and things like that. That there's this privileging of certain groups of people, and everybody else is just kind of part of this so-called unwashed mass, right? I mean, that's the way people are treated. I'm not saying that they are, but that's the way they're treated. And so I don't know. There's a transformation of this, because I think what needs to be learned is that, because you kind of start in human societies as being tribal, and then the more that you have diversity, okay, when you have big cities that start, like what they call city-states, like Athens, for example, in ancient Greece, or some of the big centers in ancient Babylon, or even once they started doing empire building, right? You would have these people who go and conquer large territories. So then the space that is the country starts to include more people. Now, obviously, even tribal cultures used to trade with each other and so forth, right? They would, especially if we're thinking about that, what tends to be the Fertile Crescent, as they call it, around Mesopotamia and that area. There's a lot of seas and things around here, and people would trade with each other. Even in transocean trade was eventually becomes a thing too, right? Throughout the Renaissance and things like that. But there's this. So initially, people become familiar with other cultures through trade and meeting people, but also that was kind of the ancient tribal principles of xenia, of guest friendship and hospitality. That you deal with your fear of the other by welcoming the stranger, right? And you welcome the stranger, and by treating the stranger like they're a part of your family, then the stranger is kind of an obligation to treat you as part of their family when they see you or when they see your ancestors, right? That was the idea behind xenia. And when that was violated, when you would see different things in Greek drama, for example, where that was violated, the results were usually catastrophic, and usually the gods did not look kindly on anyone who violated the rules of hospitality. So, so this is almost... but this is almost a different construct. It gets back to the idea that the bigger society you have, the more difference you're going to have, the more people you are going to have of varying cultures. And it's not the case of, we all have to come together now and be the same thing. And you have to leave those things behind. I mean, you do hear the old, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So yeah, when you go into a space, you want to learn about that culture and be part of it. But at the same time, that doesn't oblige you to throw your entire culture away. I think a lot of people did that when they came to the huge waves of immigration into the USA in the late 1800s. A lot of people came here, like my own relatives on my mother's side certainly had said we're Americans now and we don't talk about the old country, and that. I don't think it's about losing roots necessarily, but it's about, but it also means that the roots should not be your defining factor. That always was in the past. Well, I have to do this because my father did this and my grandfather or my mother did this or whatever. You can. If you feel a strong tie to that in a positive way as something that needs to be continued, there's no reason not to do that. But but oftentimes the things that we inherit are attitudes about who we are and what our place is in the family, or what we should be doing with our lives, to maintain the family line or to do certain things. I think there's a sense that we are getting away from that it's more like, no, what people have to offer in a world like this is not just continually reproducing necessarily or something like that. It's not, so women who don't want to have children, for example, it's not about, well, that's the thing you have to offer society, so therefore you're a bad person or a wrong person or are going to be penalized in some way because you don't want to do that. And it's like, no, there's other ways to be creative. There's other things to offer. So this is what I mean when I talk about individuality, the way in which we all have our own talents that shine. And it doesn't mean, I'm just using motherhood as an example. There's people who can have very motherly qualities without ever being a mother. And it doesn't necessarily mean you want to be one. I always felt my mothering always came out when I had cats. I was just like, I will do anything for that cat. I will sit up at 3 a.m. and feed that cat. I don't know that I'd want to do that with a human child, but even then, also just even the kind of work I do, my work with that nurturing side of the feminine or that protective side of the feminine tends to manifest in a different way, but not through me having my own child and raising my own child, So anyway, let's do our regular reading for today. That was just kind of what I was guided to talk about a little bit today. So I hope that resonates with people or feels like it has some relevance. It's a surprisingly busy weekend. I think there's people who might be trying to get in for appointments and things, and I'm like, my calendar is really, really full this week. And actually, I haven't been to the grocery store yet either, so that's another thing I have to do today. I was like, I gotta get out and get some things. Alex says definitely relevant. Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, yeah. And I often find that it is in some way. That it's part of, I don't know, what we all may be actively thinking about or maybe not actively thinking about. But, and this is interesting. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's funny when I do a reading and it's just literally what I just said. The center card is change, okay? And there we go. That's that change that's happening that we are not in control of. Now, this isn't the Tower, but it is saying there is a change that's going on. And being it's a major arcana, this is not a change that we... it's one that we have to go with, not one that we are in control of, right? Now, the inner feeling of which we are unaware. Okay. Now, remember what I said about Azrael talking about the window, right? In a way, now this is a cage, right, with the open bars. But the idea is that what appears to be the obstacle, there's the opening. There's the way that we can go through, and the way that we are free. How do we make ourselves free? What is the opportunity to make us free, to allow us to fly and to live in the realm of possibility rather than in the realm of being caged in, right? And to what degree, the devil cards come up a lot too. So to what degree do we still chain ourselves to certain things because we think we either have to, or we tell ourselves our have to because somehow is, again, it's the old devil, sometimes it just feels safer than doing the new thing. Yeah, so there's those elements. And the external feeling of which we are aware, this is literally what I just said with the first house card, is the aloneness card. Okay, it's the hermit. But as we can see, this is like a monk but the light is emanating from, the light in the darkness emanates from him. So this is about being a light unto yourself, And I think, in a way, when we think about all the topics we've been talking about this month, about stillness and about meditation, about things like that, yeah, it's about, when I say finding your center, it's about becoming your own light, not expecting other people necessarily to light the way for you. Other people who I've found their own light can get together and help make a much bigger light, right? But the idea is that there can be a whole lot that goes around externally, but the question is, where do you sit internally? Because that's going to determine how you interpret what's going on externally. Whether or not you see it as a cause for despair or for things, or whether or not you're going to see the window. Okay, so I think it's trying to encourage us to look for the window. And yeah, what's it telling us? Drop the burdens of other people. Shake these characters off your back. That's what I think what we're talking about when we're saying first house focus here. We're focusing on how am I a light unto myself, and using that light, how do I know the right way for me to go? Not what other people are, cracking the whip and telling me that I have to do, or that this is the way I have to do it, or that this is the way I have to be, or that you're in this group and therefore you must be this, or you must do this, or you must do that, right? And the outcome is the Eight of Cups. It's letting go. So, yeah. So what's letting go here? Letting go, there's those little concentric circles there again. Letting go, when we think about it in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, Eight of Cups is saying that, because, okay, there's something to this past, and we can think about it as being in the cage, but it doesn't feel that way to us. It may feel like if you put a fence around something to keep the wolves out, so to speak, that may feel safe. But then at what stage is it a safety, and at what stage does it become a prison, right? Where's the line there? And when you feel like you're there, but by being there, you're not able to thrive, you're not able to be yourself, you're not able to do the same things that you want to do, then the letting go card is saying, okay, well then it's time to walk away from that. It's time to walk away and do something different, even if it means letting go of things that you're not necessarily unhappy with. There could be elements that you like of something. So just for example, I'm only going to use myself as an example because I don't want to use other people as an example. But if I'm cleaning out this house, I already know that the whole process of filling up that dumpster, because I'm going to be pretty darn aggressive, is going to feel very, very strange to me. I'm a Taurian. I'm about my stuff, right? And there's that woodpecker again. But there's this man, he's loud. Jeez. There's this whole feeling of because even though I know I'm making a change to do something that is better, and I got that confirmation this morning, by the way, because when I got about it, a lot of this about change, and I was, or North Node, like, you're being pushed towards your North Node, and I was like, okay, what is that? What's the North Node in the 8th house pushing me towards? And I literally got the Moon card, which in the Black Moon deck means you're being called to do, like, counseling with people. You're being called to do therapy, to do work of the soul, which is kind of what I do already, but doing it in a more formal kind of a way. So I was like, okay, so that's kind of, you know what I mean? So I know what I'm moving towards. I know what I'm moving towards is better. There's aspects of what I'm moving towards which are what I want, but releasing the things like, I'm here with my coffee and my view and everything, and I'm like, oh, I'm not to give that up. So Sam says, Alex texted me earlier about her North Node. I didn't text back yet. Texting you back after Alex. Okay. So you got a reminder there. But that's just it. The nodal axis is right now. I think for me personally, it's because my nodal axis is conjunct Pluto in Aquarius right now. Like, it's at 0 degrees Aquarius. Yes, definitely think about that North Node energy. Right, where are we headed, and what does that mean for us? And how, how is that going to affect us? So, it's just that, but that was the thing. It's like that a lot of the change that's going on is pushing us. Well, that's what North Node does. It pushes us out of our comfort zone, but it pushes us to where we belong, where we're more authentically being the people that we are, or using the gifts that we have. Alex's mine surprisingly is in Capricorn. So you're on the Capricorn Cancer axis. Do you know what house? Do you know what house it's in? Give that a moment for you to give an answer on that. But yeah, if you know what house your North Node's in, the 3rd. Okay, so the North Node's in the 3rd house, and that means the South Node is going to be in the 9th house. Okay, which is interesting because, 3rd house is Gemini energy, right? Of course, it's Mercury retrograde right now, but it's So that's more about. Well, that's interesting. That may be taking something maybe that's knowledge that's held, that's deep within you, and finding a way to kind of express that more publicly. Okay, because I feel like the 9th house, Sagittarius, is more about, it's kind of like the deeper things we have, but it may be almost like moving from that hermit energy to that energy of sharing with others. And 3rd house is always a less deep mode of communication. So conjunct Uranus and Neptune, right? So you've got the unconvention here as well. Oh my God, Alex, mine is 10th house in Aquarius, and your South Node is in the 4th, just 1 house away. Yeah, and 10th in Aquarius, right? So Sam, so there you go, Sam. Yours being 10th house Aquarius. And then Pluto's there right now. So yeah, you are definitely being called to do something that gets out to the world and is not. Actually, it's almost funny because the 4th house roots, that's where your South Node is. And it would be like the 10th house, which is the world card. What you have to offer to people is where your North Node is. So yeah, so I certainly, very transparently in Sam's case, you are definitely being pushed towards using your talents towards the bigger community for the future. So for Alex, for you, it's almost like to me, it's almost like taking something complicated and making it simple enough for people to understand. Like, that's kind of the way I look at that dynamic. Of the two things. I'm sure when you talk to Sam, she'll have her own, viewpoint on that, but just hearing this, I'm like, yeah, that's kind of what it looks like to me. My nephew had given me actually the node book, and I use that sometimes when I'm doing my things about how to interpret the nodes in the different houses and things. And off the top of my head, obviously I wouldn't know what it says for that, but yeah, we're all kind of, we're all being poked, and it may also depend on where Pluto is as well. But if you have Uranus and Neptune there, then yeah, this is about taking unconventional thoughts and ideas and trying to bring them into kind of the common parlance, into the understanding level of people perhaps who don't think that deeply about these things. And that's a challenge. It really is. When you're talking to people and they just don't trying to relate things to people in a way that doesn't quite feel that way. Pluto is in your 1st. Okay. So a lot of the work, so then Aquarius, natally Pluto's in your 1st. So it's where's so let's see, if your north node is in third house, where's your Aquarius? I mean, Sam's is in the 10th. If yours is in, because I'm trying to remember, what did you say your ascendant was? Was it Scorpio, or was it? We've had this conversation and I'm just not remembering. 4th. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So that's interesting because that's the area of roots. All right. So yeah, okay. So I guess this kind of reading does apply to people here. Scorpio ascendant, right? That's what I thought. Okay. So then yeah, Aquarius in the 4th. And so that's where Pluto is right now. Pluto in the 4th is such a fun thing. And oh, look at all the crows. 3 crows just came and are circling my house. So make of that what you will. Absolutely does apply. Yeah. So yeah, my Pluto is natally in the 4th house, but right now it is conjunct my 8th house. It's conjunct my north node in the 8th house, like exactly. So I was like, oh boy, talk about a little bit of a cattle prod there. But anyway, interesting. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I will do a quick one tomorrow morning as well, a quick live stream. And of course, some of you I'm going to see tomorrow. If you're in New Jersey, I will see you at in Chester at 50 Main Street, Chester. The parking with that. I know there's parking behind the place, but there's also parking, like street park. Chester does actually have a fair amount of parking. So yeah, so see some of you then. And and I'll have more on the Zoom call and all of that soon. I'll email everybody with that. You're welcome, Alex. And let me know, Alex, when you get the books that I've sent you too. I know it's media mail, so it may take some time. So, yeah, have a lovely day. Yes, absolutely. It's always good to see you guys in the morning. And yeah, we'll be back again tomorrow morning. So you're welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.